Part 19. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 183. This time Caozi finally couldn't fool himself into thinking that this was a blind cat hitting a dead mouse. And he also noticed that Yanj loaded bullets and loaded the movements very skillfully. He didn't think this was what she learned at Fang's. After all, the Fang family did not have their own military equipment, and it was very difficult to get a gun, let alone to play with the daughter of Yan Ji. Where did she learn marksmanship? Not to mention that the two guns are in the center of the heart, he must aim and then aim even if he is a gun, and he cannot do it 100%. He stared at Yan Ji, wondering, who taught you how to shoot? Yan Ji smiled and frowned, what? Blue is blue, so you are afraid of this master? He didn't believe this. Yan Ji retracted both guns and turned his head towards the room. Caozi kept up with her, no one has taught you before. I've never forgotten it since I was a kid. Haven't you heard of my talent name? It's just a gun, just be careful, and where you need to teach it. Her talented name has been heard from a young age, but where can I not know? Attentively. What he said made him suddenly feel ashamed of himself. He stared at Yan Ji's back, his eyes were complicated, such a good marksmanship was a pity. Unfortunately, she is a woman. Yanj put his gun on the table and waved at him again, leave more bullets for me. Caozi nodded. I'll give you some more today. After a pause, he added, this gun cannot be used indiscriminately. After all, you are a weak woman. Don't show it when you have to. In case someone fancied her gun and robbed her, it was worthless. Yan Ji nodded, rest assured, I have a sense. Then he believed. This woman, but within a few days, he consciously had touched her. But he still said uneasily and said, there will be things like yesterday, don't start by yourself, just tell me, I will help you. Yanj heard his words and looked up, staring at him with a smile, okay. The whole day did not go out. Early in the morning, the sound of gunfire in the yard made other people in the yard talk about it. The bold girls also gathered around the gate of the yard to try to find out some news. Since knowing that the daughter-in-law and the third son were gangsters, and almost killed his second son, Mrscao was so angry that she didn't sleep that night. Knowing that Caozi was going out early in the morning, Mrscao immediately called for rumors. However, Yanj didn't mean to care about her in her yard. She was so angry that the old lady Cao almost scolded in the room and almost didn't have internal injuries. Now that the Cao family has Caozijhan's market, Mr. Cao has repeatedly warned that Mrscao hates to sing and sing, but she dares not find the difference in the face. She can only secretly grit her teeth and bear it, only to wait for Caozijhan to leave the capital and teach her well. Song, let her know what it is to be a wife. After Yanj nested in the house for a day, the next day, she asked Xiaoxiang to go to Fang's house. In the lifetime of the host, the Fang family held the wrong person, and later it was almost destroyed. At that time, the host asked Cao's help and Caozijian's help. But none of these people are willing to help. They didn't even want to see her. In particular, Caozijian ridiculed that the host had no knowledge, how to understand politics, and said that such things were not something he could solve in one sentence, saying that she took it for granted. However, Caozijian contributed to the matter. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 184. Caozijian thought that the host had no knowledge of the founder. He felt that the host was an old woman who wanted to rely on him not to leave. He had long forgotten that the host was a talented beauty in Beijing. Although it is still far from what will happen in the future, Yanj wants to slowly infiltrate her thinking now, so as not to have nothing to say when she speaks. Caozijian was probably because of the financial support of Mrscao, who had been lying in the hospital for a full week before returning to the CAO family in disgrace. The last thing was too shameless. He was afraid that his friends would complain about him, so after returning to CAO's house, he squatted in the house safely for half a month. It is said to be safe, but how can a person like him be really safe? With so many girls and ants in the CAO family's courtyard, he hooks up with this and that in the daily life, and entwines the hearts of the women in the CAO family. Xiaoxiang talked privately with Yanj several times. Cao Ziqiang said, "The ones we are together are now afraid of meeting the second grandfather. The second grandfather is too much. The grandfather and the old lady both ignore it. Grandma, be careful when you go out, lest you meet this muddy man." Although Hongxiang thinks that Yanj and Caozi are not good together, she also knows that these are not things that her young grandmother can resist, so she is even more distressed. The hens care about the cubs, and everything is thoughtful. Yan Ji certainly didn't know that the overlord in the eyes of Shaxiang stubbornly bowed. The overlord's person was not her, but Cao Ziu. "Grandma, are you still going out today? If you want to go out, let's go early so that people don't get blocked." Anyang's words refer to MRS San. MRS Auntie has been running here recently, saying that it was a time killer, but she was actually asking the housekeeper about Yanj. Of course, Aunt San is here too, and the most common thing is to talk about it. Tuko Cao's smoking and burning money are similar. Grandpa Cao didn't dare to talk, and the second grandfather of the Cao family didn't dare. The only thing she could talk to was Cao's old lady. Every time she comes, she is talking and listening. Even if Yanj made it clear that she wanted to go out, the third aunt too should not be able to hear the sadness of those housekeepers who usually continue to talk about themselves. "Well, I still have to go to Jingping Girls' School today. Cao Zijhen is probably busy recently, and rarely comes to her. Even if she comes, she just hugs her purely to sleep." Energetic Yanj has been visiting the principal of Jingping Girls' School during this time. She wanted to protect herself by the gun, but she felt that in such an era, it was really useless to rely on the gun. So thinking, she might well be a teacher who can make these guns respectable. She has lived 10,000 years and experienced countless planes, she will be a lot. But there is no shortage of people in the school today. Although the host was excellent in the past, there is still a little distance to be a teacher. Yanj often ran to school, helping the host to do some things with the former class teacher and now the principal. Some time ago, a foreign teacher left the school. The principal has seen Yanj's foreign language eloquence and translation ability, so he recommended Yanj to teach in the school. When she went to school today, she was interviewed by another foreign teacher in the school. Because it was an interview, Yanj wore a set of smoke-colored cheongsam and a white fox fur shawl. The host has a good body, the key is that the chest is slightly smaller, so it is best to wear a cheongsam. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Weipang. Chapter 185. No matter what color the cheongsam wears on the host, don't have a charm. Aime's words are very fond of buying and buying all kinds of cheongsam. But strangely, the cubs who like uniforms didn't feel the cheongsam. To be precise, this guy likes the temptation of men's uniforms and has no reaction to women's uniforms. Even if the chicken's usual sexual orientation is normal, Yan Ji suspected that this guy might be a base. Of course, she just thought about it secretly. Although I went out earlier, I still met the third aunt on the path in the garden. "Grandma, where are you going?" "Go out for a walk." "Where to go?" "So early on, the shops on the street haven't opened yet." "If Grandma is really boring, why not go to me?" Before the third aunt had finished speaking, Hongxiang held Yan Ji's hand. "Grandma, be careful, there is a stone on the ground. As soon as Ayaka interrupted, Yan Ji did not listen to the third ant, and smiled politely at the third ant, and continued to move forward with Ayaka. Auntie Pianzan was too uninterested, and immediately took a few steps to follow up. Where are Grandma Young? I'll ask old Lu to call you a car. Cars in Sisao are very popular now, but most people can't afford them, so it's popular to call a car and go out to do business. But it was expensive to call a car, and Yang Guan asked her, is it on the public account? The third ant opened her mouth too quietly. Today, where is the money in the public account of the CAO family? She is opening up the family every day to make up for the Western family, and even if she has money, she can't bear to give a song that obviously has money in her pocket, or you have to take her pocket. Hexiang said, I'm afraid the rickshaw called on the door is here, so I'll retreat. The third ant was too busy shaking her head. Since you have ordered a rickshaw, that's fine, lest the driver make a trip in vain, they are not easy. Yan Song nodded, and laughed. The third ant is too thick-skinned, and most people have been embarrassed for a long time, so she asked, where are you, Grandma Young? Ayaka said, give the driver a tip, and they will be very happy to run it for nothing. Grandma and Younger, we are still in the car. Rarely, MRS third ant, I haven't taken a car yet. The third ant was really afraid that Subaru would return the rickshaw, so she said, you girl, what kind of car is there for? The rickshaw may not be stable yet. The rickshaw may have been waiting at the door for a long time. Let me go. A trip to the upper house, the old lady wants to see me, and I don't know what it is, hey. Yanj thinks that the girl with subtle fragrance is really clever, and every time the third ant confronts with subtle fragrance, she is really ashamed and defeated. When I went to school, I saw another foreign teacher. This foreign teacher obviously did not expect Yanj's Western dialect to be so authentic. After eating a meal at the principal's house, teacher Yang always praised Yanj. The matter of coming to school is completely settled. When I went back in the afternoon, as soon as I left the school gate, I saw Caozi's car parked aside. Caozi got out of the car and let Yanj get on the car. Rather than calling rickshaw for Subang, Subang was sitting in the co-pilot position. I heard that you've been running to school for the past 2 days, and I really met. Probably his own affairs were going quite well, and Yan Ji felt that he was in a good mood. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Weipang. Chapter 186. During these days, Cao Zijhen was obviously worried. Even if he and Yanj had a bed and a quilt in the evening, he hadn't manually manipulated her. The chicken's fierce speculation before, it must be wood, your chest is too small, he is tired of playing. Yan Ji rubbed his wish to find a flat-chested object in the future. Hearing Cao's words, Yan Ji nodded. Well, Yanj said, I'm always bored at home. I found a job in school. Work. Cao Zijhen immediately looked up at Yan Ji. Are you running out of money? Yan Ji shook his head busy. Yes, I just want to find a job to pass the time. Cao Zijhen will always put a ticket on her bed every 3 to 5, and the fresh fruits and food of the lady's new clothes are also given to her here for the first time. After discovering that she likes to wear Chong Sam, the clothes she gave have become various colors. Chong Sam. Yan Ji jokingly asked him if she was giving the ticket for money. To her surprise, Cao Zijhen returned to her, the money was his personal small coffers, he left his own back road here. At that time he responded with a smile, and Yanj didn't take his words to heart. It's always inconvenient for a woman to go out. In the future, I will let Lao Su pick you up every day. If you call a car at another time, call me. Is there a phone in the school? Yan Ji nodded, yes, isn't it too troublesome? It's just picking you up, what's the trouble? Although sitting tightly, Caozi rubbed Yan Ji's hand in his palm where he could not reach the reflector. Did you find a job at school? Every now and then, it's a candid smile that can be heard. How did this guy think he was weird today, like a fox with a scent smelling all over his body? Chicken, this guy is in estrus. Yanj thinks that the real estrus is the chicken, and the chicken is particularly excited recently, especially when Cao Zijhan appeared. The voice of the chicken was almost useless to dry Cao Ziang. Teacher Yanj said, a teacher left and the principal was my former class teacher. He was anxious to find a teacher to replace him, and I just hit him. I'm very talented, Cao Zixi joked with a smile, but pinched the palm of Yanj's palms, squinting at Yanj, his eyes waved. Of course Yan Ji wasn't humble at all, she was sitting tightly, and ignored the small movement of Cao Ziu. Cao Zixi laughed. At night, Cao Zixun, who was a quiet and beautiful boy beside Yan Ji, rarely slammed Yan Ji like a wolf. Yanj pushed him, did you take medicine today? She thought this guy was indulging in too much yang / some time ago. However, Cao Zixu thought that the words of the song were the cigarette that the old man Cao smoked, and immediately said to the song, I don't touch that kind of thing, don't touch it, it's not good. Yan Ji nodded. Cao Zijhan touched the hair of Yanj, sure, let me reward you. Without waiting for the song to respond, he has turned over and suppressed the song. Not the dragonflies of the past. Today's Cao Zijhan is a serious aggressive war against Yanj. Completely caught off guard. Yanj was stunned by this guy inside and out. At first she resisted terribly, but Cao Zijhan said in her ear, I had a minor operation, and I won't let a woman get pregnant in the future. Don't worry. He was smashing into the city and occupying the mountain completely as a king in a word of kung fu. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 187. Yanj was repeatedly tossed by Cao Zijhan. This guy was wound up like a clockwork, and he was completely exhausted. The tossing words did not even have the opportunity to ask him, and he fell asleep afterwards. When she woke up in the middle of the night to see the man around her, she remembered what he said earlier, and Yan Ji shook Cao Zijhan's arm and asked, how did the operation? Cao Zijhan finally ate the meat. He not only exhausted his words, but also emptied all his energy. The drowsiness he had heard was lazy and he was a reply. Yan Song shook him again, what's going on? Don't you want to be pregnant? Cao Zi said, I'll do it. This god replied. Does he not want to marry a wife or have children? Do anti-men like to be full of grandchildren? How old he was, he gave himself to the, oh not eunuch, it was ligation. Singing, a little unbelievable, you didn't lie to me. Stupid Cao Zijhan was sober after being swayed by the words for so many times, he held his words, kissed her on the forehead, and pecked her nose and lips. So I had surgery, anyway, I didn't even think about having a child in the future. Yan Ji stared at him, she didn't know what to say. There was even someone who ligated herself in order to cheat, and she couldn't understand this guy's brain circuit at all. The also called, this requires my son. I have to strangle him. Beasts prefer to breed offspring. From the perspective of beasts, such as Cao Zi, who has no fertility, is not a male at all, and it is completely a defective product eliminated by society. What? Cao Zijhan pecked and started to move his feet again, are you unhappy? What's so fun about this? She pressed Cao Zi with her fingers and tried to peck her lips, have you ever thought about getting a wife and having a child? Cao Zijhan asks the words, I'm good with you, why should I marry my wife and have children? Words are speechless. Could this guy still want to be a long-time adulterer and husband with her? The chicken was still angry. It finally managed to look at a guy in the eye, but the guy was self-harming, hey, he wanted to explode and kill the guy instantly. It will certainly not kill Caozi for a while, but Caozi, who is full of energy again, is about to toss his words to death. The enlightened Caozichen was as cruel as a wolf dog. With his eyes narrowing, the Day Song pushed him and motioned to the guy to be sharp. Caozi simply held his words in his body. The Cao family has a large population, and they all gossip when they are bored. The matter of Caozichen and Yanj could not be hidden from everyone. Although none of them have been said in front of Yanj, the arguments behind it have exaggerated the matter. Mrscao felt that she was about to be mad at her recently. At first, although I didn't like the charming face of the daughter-in-law, but felt that Fang's family was the same, and the daughter-in-law knew how to look at it, so even if she didn't want it at first, she could see it in her son's favor. Also welcome people. Mrscao did not expect that it was not long before her son had left, and the daughter-in-law dared to do such a thing. Such a thing would be too much to immerse her in a pig cage. But the little girl Cao Zigzun guarded that cheap woman, and Mrscao couldn't find a chance if she wanted to die. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 188. Mrscao could only tolerate it for too long. Especially recently, it was learned that this daughter-in-law and daughter-in-law were all going out in the car of Cao Zixuan and returning home late, so she was not in a good mood except when she smoked. Mother, why do you keep asking me about my sister-in-law? I haven't been to the sister-in-law recently. Where do I know what she is doing? Cao Lingling, the only and youngest daughter of the Cao family, dissatisfied and put down her chopsticks. Lian, at home I do auntie have a quiet time to eat? I wo auntie let me go to school. Do you want me to smoke like you do every day? Mrscao was so angry that she threw chopsticks on the table. You girl, you were not allowed to go to school at first, you have to go, you look at what you are like now, where is there a ladylike appearance, and still go to school? I'm stupid again. Cao Lingling didn't like to hear this kind of words. She went off the curtain. Because she was studying at a girls' school, Cao Lingling stayed at school and went home half a month. This time she was admitted to the university. This was exciting news, but Cao's father and mother Cao did not support her in college. Cao Lingling, who was upset, simply went to Yanj. She has always had the best relationship with her, and now she has been admitted to the university where she had studied. The two must have a common discourse. For the sister Cao Zijian, the former host has always been treated as a close friend. Everyone does not support Cao Lingling to go to college. It was the college where the host sent Cao Lingling to use her own money. Even when the Cao family was the most difficult, Cao Lingling had been going to school all the time. But later, it was also Cao Lingling's first jump out to persuade the host not to have feudal ideas, and to persuade the host to live independently, instead of being attached to a man. The host squeezed out his youth and healthy body for the Cao family. In the end, even the closest sister complained to her. She felt that holding the Cao Zijian together and away was trying to the Cao family like a leech's. At that time, the despair and pain of the host. Nowadays, with a little thought, you can feel the experience. So for the arrival of Cao Lingling, Yanj had no enthusiasm, and was tossed most of the night by Cao Zi last night. Fortunately, it was a weekend when she could rest at home, so she lay in her hair half loosely on the bed and learned to embroider with subtle fragrance. Papa. Cao Lingling complained about what happened at home for a long time. When she saw Yanj always focused on embroidery and ignored her love, she simply leaned over to see what Yanj embroidered. Women, everyone is learning knowledge, but why are you living and going back? Yanji did not look up when he heard the words, no matter what I learn, it is to make myself happy. I think embroidery is very good. After waiting for Cao Lingling to speak, she said, you have learned knowledge, and you should know that you have the first 360 lines, and you won't be able to learn without embroidery. Cao Lingling always felt weird today, thinking of what Cao said to her. She was curious and asked, where have I been recently? I heard that I no longer own the house. Recently, those who leave early and return home are always away. Yan Song glanced up at her and said, who heard that? His mother-in-law was always dissatisfied with the sister-in-law. Cao Lingling didn't want to talk about the song and had any misunderstanding with Cao. She hurriedly said, listen to the servants, did you meet with those classmates in your past? No, Yanj said. I found a job outside. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 189. Cao Lingling stared at the song in amazement, looking for a job. Dad knows it. Hey, what job are you looking for? Once you get married, go out to work in this way, just in case people see it. In Cao Lingling's opinion, apart from the appearance of Liuja in Huaja, there is no job suitable for married women. Yan Ji stared at Cao Lingling and smiled. A gentle smile is harmless. But Cao Lingling couldn't go on talking. She was napping and hurriedly explained, actually, women should go out to work like men now. I agree with you, but hey, you are married, you have to discuss with your family first. After all, the third aunt is an aunt who can't get on the table. Yanj said lightly to her, well, thank you for reminding me. Continue to focus on embroidery. Well, I heard that you have a good relationship with your third brother. Are you going to work in his car early in the morning and late in the evening? Who says I have a good relationship with your third brother? Yan Ji gave her a glance. Cao Lingling's words were stuck in her throat. I always feel that my sister-in-law is not the same as before, and my eyes are dreadful. Yan Song said earnestly to her, you, instead of chewing the tongue with the people, it is better to study hard. Cao Lingling's face went red. No, sister-in-law, I don't mean that kind of thing. I just care about you. Our family has only two of us who understand people. Don't misunderstand me. Yan Ji softly smiled, well, I know. Cao Lingling seemed to hit her with a fist, and her chest was dull, but she didn't know what to say. She stared at Yan Ji for a long while, but Yan Ji focused her embroidery without looking at her again. Cao Lingling left from the courtyard of Yanj. She told Madame Cao the first time that Yanj had found a job outside. Although she doesn't object to working with her sister-in-law, she should always discuss with her family before she finds a job, and she should know what kind of work she is doing, or else the whole family is worried about the sister-in-law's affairs. MRSCAO's patience finally reached the edge of the outbreak. She sent people around to pass the song twice, but she lay down on her bed without any intention to go to the hospital. MRSCAO went to the courtyard of Yanj herself, and she brought a lot of mother-in-laws, thinking that if Yanj dared to hit her again today, she would kill Yanj on the spot. Anyway, at that time, it would be a big deal to report to the Fang family a sudden illness and death. Everyone married her Cao family, and her life and death were her Cao family members. The funeral was decent, and the Fang family could not say anything. MRSCAO was really cruel this time. She also intentionally asked the guard to guard her at the gate. If Cao's cub returns, she will tell her in advance. But when she entered the courtyard of Yanj, before she had time to speak, she was numbed by a gunshot ear and flowers in her eyes. If it wasn't for the tip of the woman next to her, she might have fallen. Yanj stood on the steps in front of the main entrance, and while wiping the gun with a towel, he smiled at MRSCAO, it turned out that the old lady is here, so I don't say anything before I come. Fortunately, My marksmanship is not accurate. Otherwise, this shot will cause a major incident. MRSCAO's teeth were trembling, especially when she saw the wood that had been broken by a shot in the direction pointed by her song. Her face turned pale and she could not make a sound several times. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 190. In today's world, although guns are often heard, people like MRSCAO have been living in deep-walled homes. They haven't seen the guns in person, not to mention that they were almost destroyed by such guns. The gunshot blasted MRSCAO's eardrums. His daughter-in-law actually pointed a gun at her? But a daughter-in-law dared to treat her like this. MRSCAO's eyes rolled indifferently, and then she stared at the words, and then became frightened with horror. But her teeth were shaking and she couldn't say anything, let alone scolding. There are a lot of people around MRSCAO, but none of them dare to squeak. Not only MRSCAO, they are also scared. These women shivered, and the quails usually shrank their heads at this time, and they would lose all their cleverness on weekdays. MRSCAO hated Yanj, and her daughter-in-law scammed her in front of the crowd, and hated these wives without seeing or looking up. The heart she hated was shaking. Yanj wiped his gun with a towel and squinted at MRSCAO. I'm practicing the gun. Is there something wrong with the old lady? If nothing is wrong, I won't invite you into the house. She didn't even call her mother. She was still the daughter-in-law of CAO's family, but she embarrassedly approached a man and dared to be shameless like this. Such a woman should dip in a pig cage. MRSCAO glared at Yanj fiercely, but her gaze swept over the gun on the singer, her heart trembled, her chest uttered 1,000 words because her teeth were trembling. Yanji threw his towel on the railing, raised his gun, and aimed at MRSCAO. Don't worry about the old lady, although I'm shooting at you, I will always be biased, you don't have to be afraid to stand there. Even if it hits, this bullet will not let people die. At most, it will bleed a little bit. If you bleed too much, you will die. It may be a little painful, but it doesn't hurt anyone. It won't hurt if you bite your teeth and smoke a cigarette. Old lady, don't move, I won't hit you, don't worry. MRSCAO entered the courtyard without even saying a word, and then uttered a song in the courtyard with the help of the people around her. She had nightmares all night, and MRSCAO, who was shocked, lay in bed for several days. Yanji didn't sleep well either. CAOZI was about to leave Beijing, so he had been tossing her hard during this time. The chicken regretted this, and told him with a long heart, it's a pity, such a good energy, but it has become a disability. You can play him as a simulation toy, but don't expect anything else. Song. Can you expect anything else in the plane? Does she look like a tree that sleeps unrealistically and dreams of other trees? Yanj ignored the words of the chicks. Not even dismissive. Humph. Before I leave, you and CAOZIGIAN divorce. CAOZIGHAN rarely heard such a word suddenly after chanting the words. Yanji looked up at him in surprise. CAOZIGSHUAN sighed, actually, I want you to go with me. The viable army is too bitter to bear your sin. This CAO family doesn't have a decent person. I'm gone. I'm really afraid of your loss. You divorced and returned to the Fang family. It's better than here. Without waiting for the song to speak, he immediately said, but you are divorced, you can't marry anymore, and this time I am stable, you can marry me, and you can do it if you want. You can do whatever you want. But there can be no other men. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 191. Yan Song, I have no choice. What is the choice? Could this woman still want to kook him? Cao Zijhan stared at the song and half-tipped his teeth and gritted his teeth. Don't you dare to hook up with another man, I'll kill that man in a single shot, and you'll hook up with me and I'll break down with a few. In this remark, the vinegar was full of smell, and the words swayed at him obliquely, giggling, why don't you break me? I can't bear it, Caozi said, I've broken you. I'll go find you somewhere, but I'll break your leg. He pinched his thigh. At that time, I would break your leg and make you unable to hook up with others. You can rest assured that even if you break your leg, I will spoil you, protect you, and listen to everything. Whenever you want to go, I will take you where your leg is. This man, as if immersed in the scene, his voice is tender and affectionate, looking at Yan Ji's eyes can drown. The man who heard this short sentence was creepy and infiltrating. Yan Ji didn't care much. She reached out and covered her lips and yawned, sleep. Cao Zijhan couldn't sleep. Why was she so unresponsive that he confessed so affectionately? He didn't see anything moving on her face. Shaking his words, he asked, what about you, what do you think? Yan Ji rolled his eyes at him, you said so, what else can I think? Also, no matter what she thinks, she has no other thoughts in her life. Cao Zijhan looked at the song that closed his eyes and slept. Although his heart was so comforting to him, he always had troubles, and he felt uncomfortable everywhere. When Cao Zixi woke up again in the middle of the night, he was tied to the bed with a large font, and when he opened his eyes, he and Xiaoi watched his words write. Yanj rides on Cao Zio's body, playing with a shiny dagger. Probably pretty, her smile was really harmless, and even if she had a cold knife in her hand, she could not afford to be wary of her. Cao Zi was not comfortable with this feeling of being tied up. While struggling with the rope on his hand without a trace, he asked with a smile, oh, what is this? Seeing her laziness, Cao Zi's heart was still a little strange at first sight. But this novelty was not a moment, and the sword of the singer fell on his head. Cao Zijhan is still laughing, and the laughter is getting more and more low. His peach eyes are flowing and looking at the words, can you kill me? Yanj's back patted his cheek, what do you say? Cao Zi's tongue licked his lips, his eyebrows frowned slightly, and a grievous interrogative song, is he willing to kill me? Yan Ji didn't speak, she pinched his hair, and as soon as the knife was cut, she cut off a bunch of hair above Cao Zi's head. Cao Zixi was almost frightened to stop his heartbeat, and his brain was so cold that he had the illusion that his skin had been peeled off from the top of his head. Although he was frightened, he was more curious, well, are you going to give me hair? Yanj answered with a smile, yeah. It turned out that it was just hair, and Cao Zixi was relieved. But using a dagger to manage his hair, although it seemed very irritating, he was very insecure. So he immediately suggested, well, I'll buy a hair styling fader tomorrow to help me manage it. It's so late today, sleep well, or you will be sleepy tomorrow. Song, close your eyes and don't talk. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Weipang. Chapter 192. Cao Zixi didn't close his eyes, he stared at Yanj with a burning gaze. This woman stared at him so earnestly that his avatar was ants-like and irritable, hey, I find you particularly seductive when you are so embarrassing me. Hey, since you can't sleep, you might as well let go of me. Shall we do something physically and mentally pleasant? Yan Ji's eyes have been staring at Cao Zixuan's head. Since she was bald, she has always had a special emotion for bald people. Every time she sees someone else's baldness, she wants to reach out and touch it. Of course, relatively speaking, people who are not familiar with thick hair, Yan Ji don't think her mood is envy, jealousy, and hatred. She just felt that her preferences might have changed because of her growth. Cao Zijhan's hair is undoubtedly in the line of Yanj envy. Every time she and Cao Zijhen's skin date, she likes to go to Cao Zijhen's hair. However, Cao Zi's hair has a strong vitality. With so much effort, she can't catch a few, let alone bald him in this way. After staring at Cao Zi for a while, Yan Ji's knife started again. This time she didn't pause, the knife shaved her hair and made a chirp sound. Yan Ji's posture with this knife is actually more like mowing. However, as the victim Cao Zi, he felt very clear every time the knife fell. His scalp was cold, making him feel that his scalp was being peeled layer by the song, just like peeling apple skin. He thought a bit of self-consolation. Fortunately, this is not living in ancient times. Otherwise, the hair would be shaved in minutes. Well, don't you really like my hair for fun? You shaved my hair and you have nowhere to drag in the future. In Cao Zi's view, Yanj has always been deeply in love with his hair, especially when two people are sweating on the bed, Yanj will always hold his hair tightly. He is one. Although his hair was very hurt, he also enjoyed it. Words, you can drag your ears. Cao Zijhen. He imagined that Yanj was dragging his ears hard and thought that before the two of them reached Yongxiao, his ears might be pulled off by Yanj. Anyway, the hair can't be saved anymore, Cao Zi now wants to retreat to the next best, and wants to keep the ears on the basis of keeping the brain. He coughed. Cao Zi said, well, hey, why do you suddenly want to help me with my hair? Yanj, I want to see what your baldness looks like. Cao Zijhen. What kind of baldness, obviously a bald head, is really a joke about his family. I want to see, tell me, I'll straighten out my bald head, where can I use my hands? Be careful, the knife is sharp, but don't hurt your delicate fingers. Yan Song, do yourself a sense of accomplishment. After the masterpiece was completed, she raised Cao Zi's chin from left to right and looked at the head in front of her. How do you think this guy looks pretty bald? I wanted to comfort him, but I don't need it now. Yan Ji felt a little uncomfortable. Cao Zijhen smiled brilliantly, hey, is it good looking? Probably because of his bald head, his bright white teeth were very eye-catching. Of course, it is also very dazzling. Yanj let go of his chin, and with the knife in her hand, her gaze turned towards Cao Zi's belly.